if you live like that on stage, I think if you're in a crowd, you can feel that. You know that that's what's happening. You know that anything could happen at any moment. Every band I've been in, always been the goal to try to get away from having a set list so that it really, there's no safety net on stage. If you don't have a safety net on stage and you don't know what you're going to do next, if you're playing like that, that's very, very dangerous. But if you're fine with that sort of danger, if it pushes you, and it pushes me to make the next move, and it changes everything. You know, if you have a set list written on the ground and you know, okay, in 3 songs we're going to be done, your mindset's totally different than if you have no idea. Maybe we want to play 7 more songs. It's a totally different mindset to live in. I'd rather live like that. It also puts the artists at the same level as the people who are viewing it, which is one of the reasons to go on stage in the first place, is to share with other people, you know, and put yourself on the same level. I've never had nervousness, sort of like classic nervousness, where you're sort of like shaking, like, oh, I hope people don't think I'm ridiculous or I don't know what I'm doing. I've never had that feeling. Even when I was young, I could walk up into front of a microphone and say something, because I always just thought, well, those are just people there and I'm a person here, so what? What happened? If I mess up, it doesn't matter to me. I think once you put something out on a record or play it on stage, you're giving it up and giving it away. You don't really get to be in control and tell people what to think of it and how to relate to it. It's kind of ridiculous. If you put a painting in a museum, you can't make every viewer in there read the plaque next to it and say, this is what it's supposed to mean to you. It's not fair to people for how they want to experience the art and how they want to relate to it themselves. If a way for them to relate to it is to think up some story as how it relates to me personally, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, they can go ahead. They'll probably be wrong, but so what? Maybe they would be wrong with their own metaphor explorations anyways about a lyric. It had nothing to do with me at all. So either way, I think it's up to them. I think it's probably more interesting than my version of it, you know, even if it's wrong. You know, and I'm glad it's in their hands instead of my own. It's less for me to worry about. We just filmed a video for I'm Shakin', this song I'm Shakin'. It's really taken off on its own. I think people really related to that song straight up from the get-go when we put the record out. And it was only a matter of time before we said, you know, we really should just put that out as a single and make a video for it. And I really wanted to document the fact that we have 2 bands on the road and 2 bands in the studio recording the albums. It's sort of like me versus myself in some sort of way. It's sort of like alter egos of the 2 bands playing, not really competing against each other, but sort of like facing off in some way, showing 2 sides of the same story. It's sort of strange. I don't even know if I really understand it myself, but there's something interesting going on when I look at it. Well, the big band leaders were probably the best at it because they had the most work to do. You know, they had the most construction going on, where they had to really figure everything out in a big way. That's different than saying having a set list for 4 people. I mean, actually writing out charts and arrangements for, like, you know, 15 people and a singer. That's a lot of work, and that can get your brain really working. So you can't help but take inspiration for them, even though I don't use sheet music and I don't use charts and sets to map everything out. But the idea of being knowledgeable about everything that's happening without being controlling about it. And I can be knowledgeable that the piano player is playing out of tune during a certain song without being controlling enough to go over there and tell them to stop. You know, you can let it happen, let it exist, and relinquish all control. The scenario is already set up for you ahead of time. You don't need to be in control of it. You just let it happen and let it be what it is. You know, everything I've really ever worked on has always been very of the moment and not planned ahead of time. The times I've actually done that, planned stuff, you know, a few months ahead of time, it doesn't seem to really work out very well for me. I also, when I'm recording, I don't like to tell the musicians what we're doing, you know, and I also don't even tell myself what we're doing if I can help it. It's good to just have everyone show up and let's make something happen. If you map everything out, you cause yourself to think of failure and think of not living up to what your preconception was at the beginning, and it takes away the energy of freshness and spontaneity and all those great things. You know. So I try not to plan too far ahead of time, especially when it comes to working with another artist, because that's always an honor and a responsibility too. If you were saying you're going to work with Wanda Jackson, that's a big responsibility. I take it very seriously, you know, and it's not just something to do. Well, it wasn't really done for shock value, but in my mind, it was done for, to me, it was all about preconceptions, you know. People, for example, if they didn't like that idea of Insane Clown Posse playing with, you know, this Mozart song. I mean, Mozart's the one who wrote it, first of all, you know, so he gets off the hook because of his preconception. Jeff the Brotherhood, which is like the cool new indie punk band, of the moment, and they're the musicians in the band, so they get out scot-free because they've got their preconception, and you've got me, whatever people preconceive about me. When people say like, "Oh, what did you make? Did you make some kind of big mistake in your head that some, two asteroids collided and something like this would go down?" I was like, obviously you can see like an Insane Clown Posse's obvious preconception with people. It's all about preconceptions. Like, why do some people get off the hook? Why does Mozart get off the hook when he's the one who wrote "Lick My Ass"? Is this Mozart we're talking about? Let's put him on trial, So that's the funny thing I thought from the beginning, is that all those things combined, colliding into one another, can only represent an artistic view on what preconception's all about, which I think is a big problem in music, looking for authenticity and looking for the real deal. I remember the Strokes and us, Meg and I were leaning out the window, and there was a lot of people on the street yelling to us, which had never really happened before in New York. So that was a new thing for us. I never played any of the classic theaters before either, despite how much I practiced at Carnegie Hall. Success has always been being able to do what you need to do without having to answer to anybody. And that's not for money reasons or for control reasons or for artistic reasons or anything like that. If you're able to produce art and create art in your own studio, in your own world, and actually get by in life, pay the bills and all those things, make yourself fulfilled, then you're successful. I mean, you can't really measure success against money or fame or against other people versus other people, what they have and what you don't have. I mean, none of those are all empty moves, but to measure success against yourself, that doing what you need to do without having to give any of it away, that's success to me. It's always been that way. It hasn't changed.